George Pickens, who nobody can put a seatbelt on. That guy's unbelievable. He's pretty dominant. Also, he's probably not showing up for voluntary OTAs. Jerry Jones gave this incredible soundbite when asked about Pickens.
There's no issue with me with talking to agents. I need to do a better job of not getting, well, Daddy said I could have it. And him going to Mama and Mama saying, Daddy said I could have it. We've got to get on the same page, and I have something to do with that. It always works out. If he worked without an agent, he'd save a lot of money.
Do you anticipate going into...
With me.
I mean, this is happening again, Colin.
Well, agents, you know, they charge a fee.
Do you want to know who Pickens' agent is?
Who?
David Mulugeta.
Oh, yeah.
Same guy who got into it with Jerry over Micah Parsons. So clearly he's making this personal. And, you know, in the political space now, everything is personal.
Who's got
Jerry
the power?
Jones has a personal issue with this guy.
Okay, but who's got the power?
Well,
Not the
don't
agent.
tell me it's Jerry Jones. Is it Jerry?
Yeah, I mean, George Pickens.
Really? What power does he have? Just because he's a billionaire? He hasn't won a damn thing. He has the longest championship playoff drought in the NFC, longer than the Panthers, the Saints.
He's got CeeDee Lamb. He's got a number one. There's always a dozen wide receivers in college who can come and play every year. The agents don't have the leverage.
Okay.
I mean, and the really good players like JSN, the GM signed them. There's never a head. Larry Fitzgerald didn't have many contract disputes. You know, if you're a great Aaron Donald, Matt Stafford, you figure it out. You know, if it's owner and agent, I don't want to hear the agent's got the power.
Sounds a lot like what Jerry was saying when they moved off Micah Parsons. Oh yeah, we got the power. A lot of defensive edge rushers out there. How'd that work out? Now they're trying to get Max Crosby.
For the record.
See Bruce Feldman. Did you see Bruce Feldman's mock draft just dropped? He had the Cowboys trading up to get David Bailey at 3. That's how desperate they are for a pass rusher.
First of all, that's a mock draft. Second of all, how did the Packers do with Micah Parsons? Oh, 7th, and then they didn't last long.
They were great until he busted up his leg and he was out for the season. I mean, come on. Listen, I know we like Jerry Jones, and he's had a great run. He's a rich guy. He's just pushing all the wrong buttons. Now you're needling the agent of Pickens, who you already got into it with 6 months ago and lost Micah Parsons. A battle, by the way, he lost. I can't believe you're defending Jim. You and your billionaire ilk. You rich guys all hang out. What do they call coastal elites? Oil money.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. Wow. First off, it's kind of wild that Colin said that about Micah Parsons and the Packers, because he literally kept saying that the Packers finally have their closer in Micah. He's a difference maker. They can win the Super Bowl. And then, he got hurt and things fell apart. Such is life. But this is so bizarre. This bothers me so much. I thought First Things First was going to cover this. And so I saw the bottom line, because when I'm scanning through clips, I never watch a clip ahead of time unless I have to or unless it happens organically. But I see the bottom line and it says, if he worked out without an agent, he'd save a lot of money. And I thought, oh gosh, what is this? So I figured First Things First would cover it. And I didn't see it. Maybe they did it in overtime or whatever, but I didn't see it. So this is something I really wanted to cover. Going back in time here, I find stuff like this actually pretty gross. And I said this with Micah when we had this conversation before. I've been fortunate enough to have agents in the past and whatnot. They are ultimately there for your protection. When you have the right agent, they are really the only person that's truly on your side that you can 100% trust. They have your best interests at heart. And again, you have to get the right agent, of course. But it's not always the owner. It's not always the general manager. That's not the case. It's really not. So when you have the right agent, hey, the ones there to help you navigate. Honestly, it's a very overwhelming thing. There's just a lot going on, a lot of money involved. And again, when I talk about my experience with agents, it's not millions of dollars. It's not a 5-year, $100 million guaranteed deal. Nothing like that whatsoever. I'm not trying to pretend it is. So let's be very clear about that. But my experience with agents in the past, I've been very grateful to have them. And if I was ever in a position where some sort of business was being conducted through an agent, and the person I'm trying to do business with basically said, "It would be better if you didn't have an agent," I can't tell you how overwhelming and frustrating that would be. It's not necessarily gaslighting, but it is at the same time. Gaslighting isn't the right word. I don't know what the word would be right now. But you're sowing the soil to make the person, in this case, George Pickens, just unsure, a little confused. You're swirling the water and making things a little dirty and dusty. And when you're someone at Jerry Jones's level, I could be a little more open when you're trying to make deals with someone and the power structure is a bit more equal. And I'm still a firm believer in win-win situations. Anytime I ever have to convince someone of anything, I make sure I never do it from a manipulative standpoint. Because I can talk. And if I needed to manipulate, I'm confident I could be great at that. But that's not how I ever want to operate. Even if it's something as little as, "Where do you want to go for dinner?" or "What do you want to do tonight?" I always want to make sure we reach a mutual decision, even though I feel I could convince anyone to come on board with what I want. That's not how I operate. But especially if you're a billionaire making massive amounts of money and you own the Dallas Cowboys, that feels even more wrong. I mean, Jerry Jones is like triple the age of these guys, and his net worth is more than 80 times theirs. The imbalance is so massive. I can't imagine ever being in a situation where I'd want to lean on that, because it doesn't actually benefit you. At the end of the day in the NFL, I understand using that leverage and power against others in business. That's the way business works, whether you're brokering land deals or something. Again, this is out of my expertise. I'm just a guy. I'm no different than you at this point. I don't have houses all over the world, and I'm not part of the billionaire club or the millionaire club. Far, far from it. But the imbalance here is so massive. And in this day and age in the NFL, you're not making these deals in a way that I think Jerry Jones in the past, and especially when Jerry Jones was in his prime, and Robert Kraft, like these guys who have all the money and all the power. Maybe when they were a bit younger and operating at the highest level cognitively, they were deal makers. They were ruthless. They were smart. Colin talked about this where he said, I think he said it was Robert Kraft who brokered TV deals. And I remember thinking, it's kind of weird. Why did he do that? And then I realized, probably because he's one of the best people in the world to navigate those deals. That's why he's so successful and powerful. That actually makes sense. No wonder someone is that good. And that was Jerry Jones once upon a time, right? Jerry Jones has made amazing business deals over the course of his life. And there's definitely this constant feeling of him thinking that's what you do. That's not how you negotiate contracts with players in 2026. I'm not so sure you even did it in the 90s, honestly. But it's certainly not how things are done now. You're not negotiating how much it's going to cost to put a kitchen in my house or install a garage door or sell a used car. I don't understand where we're at right now. So when you're making these types of comments, it's just ridiculous to me. It's absurd, and it just continues to be a mess. And that's why the fact that we're even having this conversation, who has more power? That's not even the right conversation right now. That's not the conversation. Of course Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys have all the power, but that's the wrong discussion. And I understand what Colin is saying, when you're Jackson Smith-Njigba, the deals get done. I'm not telling you that George Pickens has all the power. You do have to build that equity and goodwill. Just look what happened to Puka Nacua. I was going to maybe make a video about it today. I'll see what discussions are out there, because I've got some thoughts. Once you start talking about rehab and this and that, that's my background. That's my professional area. Let's get after it. But I'm just going to wait and see what else is said out there by the time you're watching this video. Maybe I already made that video. Maybe other things are out. But it is interesting because there's some nonsense you're going to have to deal with and manage. And listen, George Pickens, that type of player, that type of person in terms of what he presents on the field, I don't know him personally. He's not at the top of the list of people I want to deal with. He's absolutely positively not. The Justin Jefferson, the Devonta Smiths are the guys I absolutely love. The JSNs, absolutely love. I like the guys who just put their head down, get to work, and cause no other issues. But you can't always have that. So you're always going to have to mess around with some players who are a little bit tricky to navigate. And I just think when you're Jerry Jones, you're the man. You have literally decades of experience. you have all the money, all the power. I think you need to be able to have the maturity to recognize those things and understand those things, and then just be smart. Say to yourself, you know what? I'm dealing with someone who's a little unpredictable. Life has both been kind and kind at the same time. He's fortunate enough to be in the NFL but unfortunate enough to have this, that, and the other. So I just think he should have the wisdom and understanding to just be smart. He should say nothing but positives. It's not that hard. It's not that hard just to give the most generic sound bites. You know what? He's a great kid. I absolutely want him to be here. I want him to retire a Dallas Cowboy. Of course I've been around the block long enough to know it doesn't always work out that way, but you'd better believe we would love to have him as part of the Cowboys family until it's time for him to hang up his jersey. If it were up to me, I want to keep CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, George Pickens. I want all their jerseys retired because I just want to win, 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 win. He should just give the most generic rah-rah thing. But instead you get nonsense like this. He'd save a lot of money if he dropped his agent with me, and he's talking about mommy and daddy, and I'm just like, what are we talking about right now? What even is this? What are we doing here? It's just so absurd. And listen, I'll extend compassion and understanding and just say, Jerry Jones isn't firing on all cylinders right now. I talked about this when we were discussing Michael last year. Anyone who's interacted with older people, grandparents, fathers, mothers, whatever, knows that it's a little different interacting with them in their 50s and 60s than when they're in their 70s and 80s. It's just a little different. And I understand that. I'm sympathetic to that. But there are real stakes right now. We're not just talking about having a conversation at a Sunday night dinner. There are real stakes here. There are real repercussions. And I see things like this, and one part of me wants to just skip the story because I think, this is so dumb. This is nonsense. And the other part of me says, well, there's an interesting conversation to be had here, I guess. These types of things, the story itself is kind of silly or dumb. If this were during the regular season, I'd skip right over it because there are more important things to talk about. But during the off-season, it's like, all right. Thanks, Jerry, for throwing something in the fire for me to discuss, I suppose. But I just think it's a bit bizarre and absurd. And I'd like to see a conversation like this go beyond just Jerry Jones is old, he doesn't know what he's doing, he should sell the team, because that's what a lot of those conversations unfortunately end up becoming. But I just think, just like how you can't say certain things as a player, a coach, or a general manager, right? You can't try to convince other players to come to you in the middle of a season. The owner can't say, I'd love to have Saquon Barkley play on my team, when he's about to. You can't do that. There are rules. There are boundaries. And this feels like crossing a line. Not necessarily a formal league rule, but a line of basic respect and professionalism. And look, I get it. Jerry Jones is a competitor. He's always trying to get an edge. He's been doing this for decades. But there's a way to operate. There's a way to negotiate that doesn't involve undermining the person across the table from you. When you suggest that a player would be better off without an agent, what you're really saying is, I'd have an easier time taking advantage of you if you didn't have someone looking out for your interests. And that's not a good look. That's not leadership. That's not how you build lasting relationships in a league where players talk to each other, where agents remember how you treated their clients. And so, yeah, I'm frustrated by this. I'm frustrated because it's the same old song and dance with the Cowboys. There's so much talent there, so much potential, and yet these kinds of distractions keep popping up. Keep pulling focus away from what should matter, winning football games. Instead, we're talking about whether Jerry Jones made an inappropriate comment about a player's representation. Instead, we're dissecting the power dynamics between a billionaire owner and a young athlete. That's not where the conversation should be in April. That's not where any of us want to be. But here we are. And so I'll say this, George Pickens, if you're listening, keep your agent. Keep someone in your corner who knows the business, who can negotiate on your behalf, who can keep the focus on your football career while they handle the noise. Because the moment you walk into a room with Jerry Jones without representation, you're not on an equal playing field. You're not even close. And that's not a knock on Jerry, that's just the reality of the situation. The system is set up a certain way, and the smart move is to use every tool available to you. So that's my take. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. And it didn't need to happen. But Jerry Jones put it out there, and now we're talking about it. And honestly, I'd much rather be talking about the Cowboys' offensive line, their defensive scheme, their draft strategy. But instead, here we are. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about Jerry Jones's comments regarding George Pickens and agents? Is it a big deal, or is it just off-season noise? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.